I should have read the fine print. That thought circles my mind like a vulture as I stand in the cramped staff bathroom of the city library, staring at my reflection in the cracked mirror. Elena Morelli, 26 years old. Master's degree in archival science. Current salary, barely enough to cover my father's medical bills, let alone the rent that's 3 months overdue. The envelope in my hand feels too thick, too expensive. The recruiter who handed it to me an hour ago wore a suit that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. She'd appeared between the biography stacks like some corporate ghost, her smile polished and her business card blank except for a phone number. "We've been looking for someone with your particular skills," she'd said, her voice smooth as silk over steel. "Discretion, attention to detail, the ability to work, unconventional hours." The offer inside the envelope makes my hands shake. Triple my current salary. Night shift work, Monday through Friday. Archival organization for a private collection. The job description is vague, dressed up in corporate language about sensitive materials and confidential documentation, but the number at the bottom is crystal clear. It's enough to save everything. I think of my father in that colorless hospital room, machines breathing for him while I drown in bills I can't pay. I think of the eviction notice taped to my apartment door. I think of how I've been rationing instant noodles for 2 weeks, how my shoes have holes I cover with cardboard, how tired I am of being afraid every single day. The contract is 30 pages long. Dense legal language swims before my eyes as I flip through it, catching phrases like non-disclosure agreement and proprietary materials and something about a domestic confidentiality clause that I tell myself I'll read carefully later. But the recruiter had been clear the offer expires today. Sign now or lose the opportunity forever. My pen hovers over the signature line. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice whispers that this is too good to be true, that nothing in life comes without a price, but desperation is louder than caution, and fear is a better motivator than wisdom. I sign my name in shaking cursive and slide the contract back into the envelope. The rest of my shift passes in a blur. I reshelf books on autopilot, my mind already calculating how quickly I can catch up on bills, how much relief I'll see in my father's eyes when I tell him we're going to be okay. When closing time finally arrives, I lock up the library with hands that feel steadier than they have in months. Hope is a dangerous thing, but tonight, I let myself hold it. The black car is waiting at the curb. At first, I think it's just another luxury vehicle parked illegally in front of the library steps. But as I descend toward the street, fumbling for my phone to call a rideshare I can't afford, the rear door opens with a whisper of expensive engineering. A man in a driver's uniform steps out, his face expressionless beneath his cap. "Miss Morelli?" My feet stop moving. Yes? "I'm here to take you to your first shift." His voice is polite, but there's something rehearsed about it, like he's reading from a script. "Your new employer sent the contract pickup confirmation an hour ago." "But I didn't. I thought I'd start next week. I haven't even—" "The agreement specifies immediate commencement upon signing." He gestures toward the open door, and I can see the pristine leather interior. Smell that new car scent mixed with something else. Something like money and secrets. My phone buzzes. A text from the recruiter's number. * car is waiting. Welcome to the family. * family. The word choice feels odd, too intimate for a corporate position, but I'm too off balance to analyze it. Maybe it's just how rich people talk. I've never worked for the wealthy before. Perhaps they operate by different rules. I slide into the back seat, and the door closes behind me with a sound like a bank vault ceiling. The city passes by the tinted windows in streaks of neon and shadow as we drive. We're heading away from the commercial district, away from everything familiar, toward the hills where old money lives behind gates and walls. My fingers twist the strap of my worn messenger bag as anxiety builds in my chest. "Where exactly are we going?" I ask, leaning forward. The driver's eyes meet mine briefly in the rearview mirror. The Moretti estate. Moretti. The name triggers something in my memory, a whisper of rumors and half-heard conversations. Isn't that the family that owns half the waterfront? The ones people stop talking about when strangers enter the room? Before I can ask another question, my phone rings. The recruiter. "Hello?" I answer, my voice smaller than I'd like. "Miss Morelli." Her tone has changed, lost its warmth. "A word of advice before you arrive." "Okay. Don't ask questions you don't want answered." Don't touch anything that isn't explicitly part of your duties. And most importantly, the line cuts to static, then dead air. I pull the phone away from my ear, staring at the screen. No signal. That's impossible. We're still in the city, but the bars remain empty, and when I try to call back, nothing happens. The car turns through iron gates that swing open automatically, revealing a long driveway lined with ancient oak trees. Their branches form a tunnel overhead, blocking out the streetlights, plunging us into a darkness broken only by the vehicle's headlights. My heart begins to pound in a rhythm that matches the crunch of gravel beneath the tires. We emerge from the trees, and I see it. The Moretti mansion rises before us like something from another era, all marble columns and tall windows that reflect nothing but blackness. It's beautiful in the way a mausoleum is beautiful, impressive, and cold and slightly terrifying. Lights glow behind some windows, but they're too warm, too amber, making the building look like it's breathing. The car stops at the front steps. The driver opens my door, and the night air that rushes in smells like jasmine and something metallic I can't identify. This way, please. I follow him up the steps, my second hand flat silent against polished stone. The front door opens before we reach it, revealing a woman in a housekeeper's uniform who nods but doesn't smile. She doesn't introduce herself, just gestures for me to follow her inside. The entrance hall is obscene in its luxury. Marble floors reflect crystal chandeliers. A double staircase curves upward to darkness. Artwork that probably belongs in museums hangs on walls between closed doors. Everything is beautiful and sterile, like a high-end hotel where no one actually lives. But I'm not led upstairs. Instead, the housekeeper takes me through a side corridor, past a kitchen that smells like rosemary and lemon, down a hallway that grows narrower and dimmer. She stops at a door I initially mistake for a wall panel. "Your work area," she says, producing a keycard and pressing it against a hidden reader. The door clicks open, revealing stairs leading down. Wait, I thought this was an archival position. Don't archives usually need climate control, natural light? The housekeeper's expression doesn't change. Mr. Moretti's collection requires special security measures. Everything you need is below. She hands me the keycard, and I realize she's not coming with me. I descend alone, each step taking me deeper into the earth, deeper into whatever I've actually agreed to. The stairway is lit by recessed lights that cast no shadows, giving everything a flat, surreal quality. My hand trails along the wall, not decorative plaster now, but smooth concrete, reinforced. The stairs end at another door. This one requires both the keycard and a fingerprint scan. A small screen beside it displays a message. Asterisk. Scan right index. Finger. Asterisk. When did they take my fingerprints? Then I remember the recruiter had me sign the contract on a tablet, said it was for digital verification. I'd pressed my thumb to the screen, not realizing what information I was giving away. I press my finger to the scanner. It beeps green, and the door unlocks with a mechanical hiss that sounds like pressure equalizing. The archive spreads before me, and despite everything, I feel a flutter of genuine awe. It's vast, far larger than should be possible beneath a house. Rows upon rows of shelves stretch into shadowy distance, each one filled with leather-bound ledgers, file boxes, and sealed containers marked with dates and codes I don't recognize. The air is temperature-controlled, slightly cool, with a faint smell of old paper and ink. Track lighting illuminates each aisle with precision, but the spaces between remain dark. A desk sits in the center of the room, equipped with a computer, scanning equipment, and neat stacks of cataloging supplies. Everything I'd need for legitimate archival work. Beside the computer is a 3-ring binder labeled Times, Procedures, Times in gold lettering. I approach the desk slowly, my footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. As I reach for the binder, I notice something else: small black domes in the corners of the ceiling. Cameras, at least a dozen of them, positioned to cover every angle of the room. Someone is watching. The thought makes my skin prickle, but I force myself to open the binder and start reading. The procedures are straightforward enough. Catalog the contents of each box, scan any documents marked with red flags, never remove materials from the premises. I report any damage immediately to estate management. What's not straightforward is the content itself. As I pull out the first box from the nearest shelf, I realize these aren't normal business records. The dates go back decades. The documents inside are in Italian, some of them handwritten in cramped script. Recognize words here and there. Times debito, times debt, asterisk contratto times, contract, asterisk sangue times, blood, blood. I'm about to open a ledger marked 1,987 when a voice crackles through speakers I didn't notice. You're late, Mrs. Moretti. I drop the ledger, and it hits the floor with a sound like a gunshot. The voice is male, deep, with an accent that suggests money and education and something harder underneath. It echoes slightly in the vast space, coming from everywhere and nowhere. I'm sorry. I didn't know there was a specific time to wait. My brain catches up with my ears. Did you just call me Mrs. Moretti? Silence stretches for 3 heartbeats. Then, check your contract, Section 12, Subsection D. I'll expect you upstairs when you're finished processing that information. 3rd floor, East Wing, office at the end of the hall. Don't make me wait again. The speakers click off, leaving me alone with my thundering heart and the ledger at my feet. My hands shake as I pull the contract from my messenger bag, flipping past pages of legal jargon I'd been too desperate to read carefully. Section 12 is near the back, the text even denser than the rest. Asterisk, in consideration of the highly sensitive nature of materials and the intimate access to family records and holdings, employee hereby agrees to enter into a legally binding domestic partnership arrangement. Hereinafter, the arrangement, with the principal for the duration of employment. Said arrangement shall include, but not be limited to, cohabitation requirements, public representation as spouse, and full confidentiality regarding all family matters. Dissolution of the arrangement prior to the agreed term shall result in financial penalties equal to 3 times the total compensation offered. Asterisk. The words blur as tears of panic fill my eyes. Domestic partnership, spouse, cohabitation. I didn't sign up for a job. I signed up for a marriage. The amount of the penalty swims before me, a number so large I'd never pay it off in my lifetime. They didn't just trap me. They made sure I'd never escape. I sink into the desk chair, the contract slipping from my numb fingers. Every instinct screams at me to run, but where would I go? Back to the apartment I'm being evicted from? Back to the hospital bills I can't pay? Even if I could run, the penalty would follow me, would crush whatever tiny chance I had at survival. The cameras watch from their ceiling perches, unblinking eyes recording my breakdown. Somewhere above me, in an office I haven't seen, a man I've never met is waiting for his new wife to accept her fate. I think of my father's face, of how he'd tell me to fight, to never surrender. But what he doesn't know, what he can never know, is that sometimes surrender is the only way to protect the people you love. I stand on shaking legs, smooth my skirt, wipe my eyes. The ledger still lies at my feet, open to a page filled with names and dates, and red ink notation. I close it carefully, reverently, and return it to its box. Then I walk to the door, card myself out, and climb the stairs toward my fate. The 3rd floor is quieter than the ground level, the hallway carpeted in deep burgundy that swallows sound. Wall sconces cast a golden glow over dark wood paneling and more artwork landscapes in heavy frames, portraits of stern-faced men who all share the same hard jawline. The family resemblance is unmistakable, tracked across generations. The office at the end of the hall has double doors, both slightly ajar. Light spills through the gap, and I can hear papers rustling, the clink of glass on wood. I raise my hand to knock, but freeze when his voice cuts through the silence. Come in, Elena. We both know you've been standing there for 30 seconds. I push the door open and see him for the first time. Luca Moretti sits behind a desk of black walnut, broad-shouldered in a charcoal suit that probably costs more than a year of my old salary. He's younger than I expected, maybe 35, with dark hair swept back from a face that could be carved from marble if marble could look cruel. His eyes are the color of espresso, and they assess me with the kind of precision that makes me feel transparent. A lawyer stands beside the desk, thin and gray and silent as a shadow. He holds another copy of the contract, pages flagged with neon tabs. Sit, Luca says. It's not a request. I sit in the leather chair across from him, my spine straight despite the terror crawling up my throat. If I'm going to be trapped, I won't give him the satisfaction of seeing me collapse. You read Section 12. Again, not a question. I read it. And I think you're insane if you believe I'm going to. The penalty for breach is outlined in Section 12B. His voice remains calm, almost bored. 3 times your total compensation package. That calculates to approximately $1.2 million. He pauses, Lets that number sink in. Plus legal fees, of course. The room tilts slightly. 1.2 million. I'd never even seen that much money, let alone be able to pay it. This is kidnapping, I whisper. Fraud. You can't. I can. And I have. The contract was reviewed by 8 different attorneys before it was presented to you. Everything is legal, Elena. Morally questionable, perhaps, but entirely within the law. He leans back in his chair, steepling his fingers. You signed without reading. That's not my failure. It's yours. Rage flares hot in my chest, burning through the fear. What kind of man tricks a desperate woman into the kind who needs insurance? He cuts me off cleanly, his voice dropping lower. I didn't choose this arrangement for entertainment. I chose it because I need someone in my home who has no connections to my world, no allegiance to my enemies, and no ability to betray me without destroying herself in the process. His eyes lock onto mine. You, Elena Morelli, are the perfect solution. Solution to what? The lawyer clears his throat softly. Luca's gaze flicks to him, and some wordless communication passes between them. When he looks back at me, something in his expression has hardened further. That's not your concern. Your concern is simple. Play the role of my wife in public. Maintain the archives as agreed, and don't ask questions about things that don't involve you. In return, you'll have everything you need: housing, food, health care for your father. His treatments will be fully covered, top specialists, private rooms. The debt collectors will disappear. You'll be safe. It's the kindness in that last word that undoes me. Safe. As if being trapped in a stranger's house, forced into a fake marriage, can somehow equal safety. But my father's face swims before me again. The treatments he needs, the experimental procedures, insurance won't cover. Luca's offer could give him years, could give him life. How long? My voice comes out broken. 1 year. After that, we'll arrange a quiet dissolution. You'll receive a settlement substantial enough to start over anywhere you choose. Your father's care will continue regardless. 1 year. 12 months of being someone I'm not, living a lie, trapped in this beautiful prison. 12 months weighed against my father's life. There's no choice at all, really. I need to see him, I say. My father. Before I agree to anything, I need to see him and know he's being cared for. Luca's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes: surprise, maybe, or the faintest hint of respect. Tomorrow, I'll arrange it. The lawyer steps forward, producing a pen. If you're prepared to proceed, I want one thing in writing. I stand, surprised by my own courage. If I do this, if I live this lie for your purposes, you don't get to control how I do my actual work. The archives are mine. I catalog them my way, organize them as I see fit professionally, and you don't interfere. That's my condition. Luca rises slowly, his height suddenly apparent. He's tall enough that I have to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. For a long moment, he simply studies me, and I force myself not to look away, not to show him the terror that's vibrating in my bones. Then, impossibly, his mouth curves in something that's almost a smile. Agreed. He nods to the lawyer, who makes a notation on the contract. Anything else, Mrs. Moretti? The name on his lips sounds like a chain snapping shut. I take the pen, and for the second time today, I sign away a piece of my soul. The ink dries quickly, permanent and damning. When I set the pen down, my hand is steady. Welcome home, Luca says quietly, and the doors close behind the lawyer, leaving us alone. The silence stretches long enough to suffocate. I wait for him to say something else, to explain the rules or outline my duties or threaten me into submission. Instead, he simply returns to his desk and picks up a file, dismissing me with his attention. Someone will show you to your room, he says without looking up. Breakfast is at 7. Don't be late. I leave on unsteady legs, and I don't let myself cry until I'm alone in the hallway, surrounded by the painted eyes of dead Morettis, who all seem to be laughing at my fate. Morning arrives with cruel efficiency. No one comes to wake me, but I don't sleep anyway. The bedroom they've given me is larger than my entire apartment, decorated in creams and golds that feel like a magazine spread. The bed is obscenely comfortable, the attached bathroom stocked with expensive toiletries I'm afraid to touch. A walk-in closet holds clothes in my exact size: dresses, slacks, blouses, all elegant and understated. They knew my measurements. They planned this down to the last detail. At 6:45, I dress in a navy sheath dress that feels like armor and make my way downstairs. A maid I don't recognize nods toward a set of French doors, and I follow the silent direction to the dining room. It's a space designed for gatherings of 20, but only 2 places are set. One at the head of a gleaming mahogany table, one to its right. Luca is already seated, reading something on a tablet, a cup of espresso at his elbow. He's dressed more casually than yesterday, in a black button-down with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with a long, pale scar across his left wrist. He doesn't look up when I enter. I take the seat that's obviously meant for me and stare at the place setting before me. Fine china, 3 different forks, a crystal water glass catching prisms of light from the chandelier overhead. A different maid appears, setting a plate in front of me. Poached eggs over asparagus, fresh fruit arranged artfully, toast cut into triangles. It smells incredible, and my stomach clenches with hunger I haven't properly satisfied in weeks. I don't touch it. "You need to eat," Luca says without looking up from his tablet. "I need to understand what you expect from me." Now he looks up. His gaze is sharp in the morning light, assessing. "I expect you to eat breakfast, work in the archives during your scheduled hours, appear at my side when required for social functions, and behave in public as though our arrangement is real. Is that unclear? What about in private?" "In private, you're free to hate me as much as you'd like." He returns his attention to the tablet. "I won't require anything more than your presence." The relief that floods through me is almost as humiliating as the fear. I'd been bracing for demands I don't want to name, but his dismissal is somehow worse. I'm not even worth the pretense of desire. I pick up my fork and eat mechanically. The food tastes like ash despite its obvious quality. Across from me, Luca continues reading, and the silence grows teeth. "Your father's transfer is being arranged," he says suddenly. "He'll be moved to Cedars Memorial by this afternoon. Dr. Reyes is the head of their cardiac unit, one of the best in the country." My fork stops halfway to my mouth. "How did you— congenital heart disease, complications from valve replacement surgery 3 years ago, infection that's been resistant to standard antibiotics." He still doesn't look at me. "I know everything about you, Elena. Your education, your debts, your work history, your father's medical records. I don't make investments without research." Investments. That's what I am to him. A line item in his budget, a tool for some purpose he won't explain. "Thank you," I force out. "Because whatever his motivations, my father will get care he desperately needs. Don't thank me. You're paying for it with your compliance." He sets down the tablet and finally gives me his full attention. "Today you'll familiarize yourself with the estate. Marco will accompany you, my head of security. He'll explain the boundaries. Boundaries. Like I'm a prisoner being told which parts of my cell I'm allowed to access. And if I cross them?" Something dark flickers across his face. "Don't." He stands, draining his espresso in one swallow. As he passes my chair, he pauses, and I feel the heat of him at my back. His hand comes to rest on the table beside my plate, close enough that I can see his knuckles are scarred, the kind of scarring that comes from hitting things. Or people. "One more thing," he says, his voice low and close to my ear. "You'll find there are documents in the archives you'll be curious about. Family histories, business records, things that might seem important or valuable." He leans closer, and I smell cedar and something darker. "Try not to touch what you shouldn't read. Curiosity in this house is a terminal condition." Then he's gone, his footsteps fading down the hallway, and I'm alone with my breakfast and the crushing weight of everything I don't understand. Marco turns out to be a wall of a man, 6'4" of muscle packed into a dark suit with gray threading through his close-cropped hair. His face is weathered, his eyes the pale blue of ice, and when he smiles at me in the entrance hall, it doesn't reach those eyes. "Mrs. Moretti," he greets, as if the title is already natural. "I'm told you need a tour." We walk the grounds first. The estate is even larger than I'd realized, sprawling across what must be 10 acres, surrounded by walls topped with decorative ironwork that probably contains sensors. Marco points out the gardens, the pool house, the garage that holds vehicles I'm not permitted to drive. He shows me the front gate's access panel and explains I have clearance to come and go, but my movements are tracked for security purposes. "Whose security?" "Whose security?" I ask. "Mine or his?" Marco's expression doesn't change. "Both." As we walk back toward the mansion, I notice men positioned at regular intervals, gardeners who watch too carefully, maintenance workers who don't actually maintain anything. Guards in civilian clothing. How many of you are there? I ask. Enough. Marco holds open a side door. Mr. Moretti has many enemies. It's my job to make sure they don't become your problem. But they already are my problem, aren't they? I'm part of whatever protection scheme Luca is running. A human shield he can parade around to prove something to someone. Inside, Marco shows me the main living areas, parlors I'll never use, a library that would make me weep if I weren't already drowning, a media room, a gym that's bigger than most commercial facilities. Every room is immaculate and empty, like a museum after hours. Where is everyone? I ask. Staff, I mean. I've seen maybe 6 people total. The household runs on a tight schedule. Most staff are part-time, come in for specific duties, then leave. Mr. Moretti values privacy. Marco stops at a door. I recognize the one leading down to the archives. This is your primary workspace. You'll spend most of your time here. The rules are in your binder, but I'll reiterate. Nothing leaves this room. No photographs, no copies, no notes taken elsewhere. What you see here stays here. Understood? Understood. He produces a keycard identical to mine and taps it against the reader. Only 3 people have access to this space. You, Mr. Moretti, and me. If anyone else tries to enter, you alert us immediately. Don't ask questions. Don't try to handle it yourself. You call. He hands me a cell phone, sleek and new. This is a secure line. Mr. Moretti is contact 1. I'm contact 2. No one else. I take the phone, feeling its weight like another shackle. You said Mr. Moretti has enemies. What kind of enemies? For the first time, Marco's professional mask cracks, and I see something like pity in his eyes. The kind you don't want to meet, Mrs. Moretti, which is why you're going to follow every rule, stay within your boundaries, and trust that we know what we're doing. He leaves me at the threshold of the archives, and I descend once again into the belly of the beast. The work is consuming, and I'm grateful for it. For 8 hours, I lose myself in the rhythm of cataloging, scanning, organizing. The ledgers span decades, tracking transactions and agreements in meticulous detail. Most of it is in code numbers and initials and dates that mean nothing to me, but occasionally I find something clear. A contract for a warehouse purchase. A list of employees for an import company. Legal, ordinary business. But then there are the others. The ones that mention debts paid in alternative arrangements. The ones that reference family resolutions and permanent solutions. The ones written in red ink, flagged with symbols I don't recognize. I'm careful not to read too deeply, heeding Luca's warning, but it's impossible not to notice patterns. Names that appear repeatedly, then suddenly stop. Dates that correspond to news stories I half remember about fires and accidents and disappearances. I'm organizing records for a criminal empire. The realization settles over me like a cold blanket, and I have to stop working, hands shaking too badly to hold the scanner. This is what I've sold myself into. Not just a fake marriage, but complicity in whatever darkness the Moretti family deals in. I'm leaning against the desk, trying to breathe through the panic, when I see it. A ledger misfiled in the section I'm working on, its spine marked with a date from 2 years ago, and a title that makes me freeze. Asterisk family bloodlines and succession. Asterisk, every instinct screams at me to leave it alone. This is exactly what Luca warned me about, but my hands move before my brain can stop them, pulling the ledger from the shelf, opening it to pages filled with a family tree rendered in precise calligraphy. The Moretti line branches across the pages, names connected by marriage and blood. I trace the lines down to the current generation and find Luca's name at the bottom, marked with a red star. Beside it, a notation, asterisk Solaire, succession contested by Vieri family claim, asterisk Vieri. The name triggers a memory from earlier Marco, mentioning it in passing, a edge of tension in his voice. I'm about to close the ledger when footsteps echo on the stairs. Panic floods my system. I shove the ledger under my dress, pressing it against my stomach, and grab a random file box to look busy. The door opens, and Luca enters, still in his black shirt but with his tie loosened, looking tired in a way that makes him seem almost human. "How's the work?" he asks, crossing to the desk. "Fine. Slow. There's a lot to process." I keep my voice steady despite the ledger burning against my skin. He nods, studying the shelves with an expression I can't read. My grandfather started this collection. Every agreement, every deal, every promise made or broken. He believed in documentation, in proof. Said that memory was a liar but ink was forever. Sounds like a man who didn't trust easily. He didn't trust God. You killed in his world. Luca's gaze swings back to me. Still does. The weight of his stare makes me feel transparent, like he can see through my dress to the contraband I'm hiding. But he just moves toward the stairs again, pausing at the threshold. You should finish up soon. Dinner's at 8. Marco will escort you. I don't need an escort to find the dining room. It's not about navigation, Elena. It's about making sure you arrive. The door closes behind him, and I'm alone with my stolen knowledge and the sick feeling that I've just made a terrible mistake. I wait 10 minutes to be sure he's gone, then return the ledger to its proper place, hands shaking. The cameras have recorded everything. If someone reviews the footage, they'll see what I did. But no alarm sounds, no guards come rushing down. Maybe no one watches in real time. Maybe I've gotten away with it. Or maybe Luca is testing me, seeing how far my curiosity will push, waiting to see if I'll hang myself with my own choices. Dinner is a repeat of breakfast 2 settings. Elegant food, crushing silence. Luca eats methodically, his attention on a leather portfolio beside his plate. I move food around, my appetite destroyed by anxiety. Your father's settled at Cedars, he says without preamble. Dr. Reyes started him on a new antibiotic protocol. They're optimistic. Relief crashes through me, so intense it's painful. Can I see him? Tomorrow. I'll take you myself. I blink. You? We're married, Elena. It would be strange if your husband didn't accompany you to visit your sick father. He finally looks up, and there's something calculating in his expression. We need to establish our cover story. How we met, how long we've been together, why we kept it quiet. The people in my life are suspicious by nature. They'll be watching for cracks. Then tell me what to say. I'll memorize it. It's not about memorization. It's about believability. He sets down his fork, giving me his full attention in a way that makes me want to squirm. Tell me about yourself. Real things. Interests. Habits. The small details that make you human. I need to know you well enough to make this look real. The irony isn't lost on me. He wants intimacy without vulnerability, knowledge without connection. But I'm trapped in his game, so I play. I read fantasy novels when I'm stressed. Old ones, where the hero always wins and love conquers all. My voice is flat. I drink my coffee black because I can't afford cream. I have a scar on my knee from falling off a bike when I was 9. My mother died when I was 12, and I still talk to her sometimes, even though I know she can't hear me. Something shifts in Luca's expression, softening slightly. My mother died when I was 15. Cancer. Slow and ugly. The confession hangs between us, a bridge neither of us expected. For a moment, we're just two people who understand loss. Then the moment breaks. We'll say we met at a charity gala 6 months ago. Luca continues, his voice businesslike again. You were working a side job in event coordination. We kept it quiet because of the age difference and my family obligations. We married privately last week because your father's condition worsened, and you wanted him to see you settled. That's actually believable. I'm good at lies, Elena. You'll learn that about me. The words are a warning, and I hear it clearly. Everything about him is constructed, performed, controlled. And now I'm part of his performance, another prop in whatever elaborate scheme he's running. After dinner, I retreat to my beautiful cage of a room and finally let myself fall apart. I cry for my father, for my freedom, for the woman I was yesterday who had nothing but at least owned herself. I cry until I'm empty, and then I sleep fitfully, dreaming of ledgers written in blood and contracts that bind forever. The next morning, true to his word, Luca takes me to see my father. We drive, in a different car, still black, still expensive, but more subtle than the one that brought me here. Luca handles the vehicle himself, no driver, and I watch his hands on the steering wheel, noting the way he moves with confidence that's probably second nature. Thank you, I say quietly as we navigate traffic. For this, for his care, whatever your reasons, he's my father, and I'm grateful. Luca's jaw tightens. Don't mistake pragmatism for kindness. But when we arrive at Cedars Memorial and walk through the gleaming hallways, his hand settles on the small of my back. A gesture that could be possessive or protective or just for show. I can't tell, and that uncertainty is becoming the defining feature of my new life. My father is in a private suite that's more like a hotel room than a hospital. He's sitting up, color already better than the last time I saw him, and when he spots me, his face transforms with joy. "Elena, sweetheart, what's going on? They moved me this morning, said everything's being taken care of." He stops when he notices Luca behind me. "Who's this?" I take a breath, feel Luca's hand press more firmly against my back, and step into the lie. "Dad, this is Luca Moretti. My husband." The shock on my father's face nearly destroys me, but I hold it together, weaving the story we rehearsed, watching his confusion turn to cautious happiness. Luca plays his role perfectly respectful, concerned, appropriately deferential to my father, while still projecting quiet authority. He answers questions about his import business, makes promises about taking care of me, accepts my father's gratitude with humility that would be admirable if it weren't completely false. By the time we leave an hour later, my father believes his daughter found love and security. The relief in his eyes is worth every lie I've told. In the car, I finally let the tears fall. Luca doesn't comment, just drives us back to the estate in silence. When we arrive, he walks me to the entrance and pauses. "You did well," he says quietly. "I know that wasn't easy. You have no idea what's easy or hard for me. Maybe not. But I know you love your father enough to sacrifice your pride. That's admirable." He leaves me standing in the foyer, and I realize I've just received the closest thing to a compliment Luca Moretti is capable of giving. The next few days fall into a rhythm that's almost bearable. I work in the archives, eat silent meals with Luca, visit my father every other day with my husband playing devoted son-in-law. The staff gradually becomes familiar: Maria, the housekeeper, who sometimes smiles; Joseph, the groundskeeper, who tips his hat; the rotating guards, whose names I'm not told. And slowly, against my better judgment, I start noticing things about Luca: the way he rubs his scarred wrist when he's thinking, how he takes his espresso with a single sugar cube, no cream, the fact that he reads late into the night. I can see the light under his door across the hall from my room. How he's gentle with the elderly gardener who moves slowly, patient in a way that contradicts his usual cold efficiency. He's not kind, but he's not carelessly cruel either. He's a puzzle I can't solve, and despite everything, I'm curious. That curiosity almost kills me. I'm deep in the archives one evening, later than usual because I've been cataloging a particularly dense collection from the 1,990 seconds. The mansion is quiet overhead, just the hum of climate control and my own breathing. I've learned to find comfort in this underground silence, this space that's mine even if nothing else is. I'm returning a box to a high shelf when I notice something odd, a gap between boxes that shouldn't be there. I reach into the space and feel something cold. Metal. I pull out a small key, tarnished but clearly important, attached to a tag marked with a single word: *verita, *truth. Every rational part of my brain screams to put it back, to forget I found it, but my hands are already searching the surrounding shelves, looking for what it might open. It takes 20 minutes, but I find it a locked drawer built into the side of a filing cabinet in the farthest corner, where the light barely reaches. The key fits perfectly. Inside are documents different from the others. These are recent, printed on modern paper, marked with official stamps and signatures. As I scan the first page, ice floods my veins. They're contracts. Marriage contracts, specifically. Mine is here, but it's not alone. There are 4 others, each with a different woman's name, each dated within the last 3 years. And beside each contract is a file folder marked Times Termination Report. *. My hands shake as I open the first folder. The woman's name was Sophia Russo. Her contract lasted 6 months before she violated confidentiality agreements. The report details her removal from the estate, the financial penalties enforced, the non-disclosure agreements signed. The last page is a death certificate from a car accident 2 weeks after her termination. The second folder, Julia Marchetti. Contract terminated after 8 months for security breach. Her termination report ends with a news clipping about a house fire. I don't open the others. I don't need to. The pattern is clear and horrifying. I'm not the first woman Luca trapped, and none of the others survived leaving. The realization hits me like a physical blow. Whatever protection I thought this arrangement offered, it's a lie. I'm not his wife. I'm his victim, waiting for my turn to become a statistic. I'm shoving the documents back into the drawer, hands fumbling with the key, when I hear footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, multiple sets. Not Luca's measured stride or Marco's distinctive tread. These are urgent, aggressive. The door bursts open, and 3 men flood in, all wearing black, all carrying weapons I recognize from movies but have never seen in real life. Guns, small and dark and pointed directly at me. "Where is it?" the first one demands, his accent thick. "The Rossini ledger. We know it's down here." I raise my hands, slowly, trying not to shake. "I don't know what that is. I just catalog." "Don't lie." He surges forward, and I stumble backward, hitting the filing cabinet. Moretti's whore knows exactly what we're talking about. The proof of his family's deal with our father. "Hand it over, and maybe we let you live." Rossini. Another family name I've seen in the documents. Another thread in the web of violence I'm trapped in. I can't. My voice breaks as he raises his weapon. Then the lights go out. For a heartbeat, there's only darkness and the sound of panicked breathing. Theirs. Mine. I can't tell. Then emergency lighting kicks in. Dim red bulbs that turn everything into a horror movie. And in that crimson glow, I see Marco materialize behind the intruders like a ghost. What happens next occurs too fast to fully process. Marco moves with brutal efficiency, disarming the first man with a crack that might be bone-breaking. The second turns, fires, but Marco's already moving, and the bullet sparks off concrete. The third makes the mistake of pointing his weapon at me again, and that's when I hear another sound, the door slamming open, followed by Luca's voice, cold as death. "Gentlemen, you've made a critical error." He's flanked by 4 guards, all armed, all moving with coordinated precision. The intruders don't stand a chance. Within seconds, they're on the ground, disarmed, bleeding from places I try not to look at. Luca crosses to me, his eyes scanning for injuries. His hands cup my face, turning it left and right, checking for damage with an intensity that seems personal rather than proprietary. "Are you hurt?" His voice is different now, stripped of its usual control. I shake my head, unable to speak past the shock. "Get them out of here," he orders Marco, never taking his eyes off me. "And find out who authorized this breach. I want names." The guards drag the intruders away, leaving trails of blood on the concrete. The emergency lights flicker. Then the main power returns, flooding the space with normal illumination that somehow makes everything worse. Now I can see the bullet hole in the wall, a foot from where I was standing. Now I can see the blood. "Come on," Luca says, his hand gripping my elbow. "You're done here for tonight." He guides me up the stairs, through the hallways, up to the 3rd floor, not to my room but to his. The space is larger than mine, decorated in dark blues and grays, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive bed that dominates one wall. He deposits me on a leather sofa and disappears into what I assume is his bathroom, returning with a first aid kit. "I'm not hurt," I protest weakly. "You're bleeding." I look down and realize I cut my hand on something during the chaos. The wound isn't deep, but blood drips steadily onto my dress, dark against the fabric. Luca kneels before me, taking my hand with surprising gentleness. He cleans the cut with antiseptic, his touch careful and precise. In the lamplight, I can see his face clearly for the first time, the hard lines softened slightly by concentration, a small scar above his eyebrow. I hadn't noticed before, the shadow of exhaustion under his eyes. "I'm sorry," he says quietly, wrapping gauze around my palm. "This shouldn't have happened. Security should have prevented." They knew about the Rossini ledger," I interrupt. "They knew exactly what to ask for. Someone told them." His hand's still on mine. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. I don't know what that ledger is or where it is. I've never even seen that name in my cataloging." I hesitate, then plunge forward. But I found something else. The drawer, the other contracts, the termination reports. The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Luca's expression shudders completely, and, when he looks at me now, I see the man who runs a criminal empire, who makes people disappear, who might be planning my termination right now. "You opened a locked drawer," he says softly, dangerously. "After I explicitly told you." "Yes, I did. And now I know what happens to the women you trap in these contracts." I pull my hand away from his. I know I'm not getting out of this alive. For a long moment he doesn't move. Then, unexpectedly, he laughs a bitter, broken sound. "You think I killed them? Didn't you?" "No." He stands, running a hand through his hair, the first sign of agitation I've seen from him. "Sophia was targeted by the Vieri family because they thought she had information about my finances. Her accident was their message to me. Julia's house was firebombed by the Russians after she was foolish enough to tell a friend about her work here. The others, one died of an overdose she'd been hiding. One left the country with enough money to start over and is currently living in Argentina. He crosses to the window, staring out at the dark grounds. I don't kill the women I marry, Elena. I try to protect them. I just fail sometimes. The honesty in his voice disrupts every assumption I've made. I stand, moving closer despite my instincts screaming at me to maintain distance. Then why? Why do this at all? Why trap women in these contracts? Because alone, I'm vulnerable. Because my enemies believe I care about nothing. So I give them something to target, someone they think they can use against me. He turns, and the expression on his face is complex, layered with emotions I can't parse. I'm not a good man, Elena. But I'm not the monster you think I am. I'm just trying to survive in a world where trust is a luxury I can't afford. So you buy it instead, with contracts and penalties and lies. Yes, the simple admission breaks something in me. Not my anger, but my certainty. I'm still trapped, still forced into this arrangement. But the nature of the trap is different than I thought. Not a death sentence, just a different kind of prison. I should go, I say. It's late. Stay. The word comes out rough, almost pleading. After tonight, I don't just stay. Please. It's the please that destroys me. This powerful, controlled man, asking rather than commanding, showing me a vulnerability I didn't know he possessed. I stay. We don't talk more. He gives me clothes to change into sweatpants and a t-shirt that smell like cedar and him and points me to the bathroom. When I emerge, he's sitting on the sofa, 2 glasses of whiskey on the coffee table. I take one and sit beside him, careful to maintain space between us. We drink in silence, as the adrenaline slowly drains away, leaving exhaustion in its wake. At some point, my head drops to his shoulder, and he doesn't pull away. His arm comes around me, holding me steady, and for the first time since I signed that cursed contract, I feel something other than fear. I feel seen. I wake before dawn, still in Luca's suite, still tucked against him on the sofa. He's asleep, his breathing deep and even, his face peaceful in a way it never is during waking hours. The hard mask is gone, revealing the man underneath younger-looking, tired human. I ease away carefully, trying not to wake him. As I stand, something falls from my lap. The key. I must have been clutching it all night. I stare at it in the growing light, then make a decision that's either brave or stupid. I leave it on his coffee table where he'll find it. A gesture of trust I'm not sure I actually feel but want to feel. Maybe that's enough. In my room, I shower and change, trying to scrub away the memory of guns and blood and fear. By the time I make it down to breakfast, Luca is already there, back in his armor of expensive clothes and cold control. But when I enter, he looks up, and something in his expression is different, softer. "How's your hand?" he asks. "Fine. It barely hurts." "Good." He hesitates, then adds, "Thank you." "For what?" "For trusting me, even when you had every reason not to." The key. He found it. He understood. I sit down, and Maria brings me coffee, and we eat breakfast in a silence that feels less heavy than before. Not comfortable, but less hostile. Progress, in our strange way. "I need to attend an event next week," Luca says as he finishes his espresso. "A gala for one of my legitimate business fronts. You'll need to come as my wife." "What kind of event?" "Boring. Rich people pretending to care about art, while they actually care about being seen. But important people will be there, including some who need to see us together, need to believe this is real." "I don't have anything appropriate to wear." "You will. I've arranged for a stylist to come by this afternoon. Whatever you need." He stands, and pauses beside my chair, his hand coming to rest briefly on my shoulder. "I know this isn't what you wanted, Elena, but I'll keep you safe. That's not a lie." Then he's gone, and I'm left with my coffee and the ghost of his touch, and the terrifying realization that I'm starting to believe him. The next few days pass in preparation. The stylist arrives with a team, bringing dresses and shoes and jewelry that probably costs more than my entire education. They transform me into someone I don't recognize, elegant, polished, the perfect Mafia wife. When I look in the mirror, I see a stranger wearing my face. Luca barely speaks to me during this time, busy with whatever dangerous business occupies his days. But I catch him watching me sometimes, his expression unreadable, and I wonder what he sees. A possession? A liability? Something else entirely? The night of the gala arrives too quickly. I'm dressed in midnight blue silk that clings and flows, diamonds at my throat and ears that Marco assures me are real. My hair is swept up, makeup applied by professional hands, and when I descend the stairs, I find Luca waiting in the entrance hall. He's devastating in a tuxedo, all sharp lines and controlled power, but it's the look on his face when he sees me that steals my breath. Not cold assessment, not clinical approval. Something raw and unguarded, there and gone so fast I might have imagined it. You look. He stops, and for once seems at a loss for words. Beautiful. Thank you. The compliment shouldn't matter, but it does. You clean up well yourself. A ghost of a smile crosses his face. Shall we? He offers his arm, and I take it, and we step into the night together. The gala is exactly as he described, opulent, performative, full of people in expensive clothes making expensive small talk. But the moment we enter, I feel the shift in attention. Everyone watches us, some openly curious, others attempting subtlety and failing. I hear whispers, see heads turning, feel the weight of 100 assessments. Luca feels it too. His hand settles on my waist, possessive and protective at once. Smile, he murmurs. They're looking for cracks. Don't give them any. I smile. I shake hands. I let him introduce me as his wife to businessmen and socialites, and people whose names I recognize from the ledgers in the archive. I play my role perfectly. The devoted newlywed, the woman who somehow captured Luca Moretti's attention. And the strangest part is that it doesn't feel entirely like acting. When he looks at me during these introductions, there's pride in his expression. When his thumb traces circles on my waist, the gesture feels protective rather than controlling. When someone makes a slightly inappropriate comment about how he kept me secret, the ice in his voice when he responds feels genuinely offended on my behalf. You're doing well, he says during a brief moment of privacy, leading me toward the bar. Better than I expected. Should I be insulted by that? Probably. He orders drinks, whiskey for him, wine for me, and we stand side by side, watching the crowd. Most people find these events exhausting. You seem comfortable. I'm a librarian, Luca. I've dealt with demanding patrons, entitled students, and once, a man who threatened me with a stapler over a late fee. Rich people in fancy clothes aren't that intimidating. He laughs, genuinely laughs, and the sound transforms his face. For a moment, he looks years younger, unguarded, and I catch a glimpse of who he might be, without the weight of his world crushing him. Luca Moretti. The voice cuts through the moment like a blade. We turn to find a man approaching, older than Luca, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, with a smile that doesn't reach his cold gaze. Behind him, two younger men in expensive suits flank him like guards. Every muscle in Luca's body tenses. His hand on my waist tightens, pulling me fractionally closer. Vieri, Luca greets, his voice flat. I didn't realize you were on the guest list. Last-minute addition. You know how these things are. The man's attention shifts to me, and I feel violated by his gaze. And this must be the mysterious wife I've been hearing about. Elena, isn't it? Mr. Vieri. I force warmth into my voice despite the ice in my veins. This is the rival family Marco mentioned, the ones responsible for Sophia's death. Charming. Truly. His smile sharpens. Though I must say, Luca, it's quite unlike you to marry without announcing it properly. Some might think you have something to hide. Some might think my personal life is none of their concern. Oh, but it is. When it involves family business, everything is everyone's concern. Vieri steps closer. Too close, invading our space. I hope you've explained to your lovely bride the risks of being associated with your name, the unfortunate accidents that seem to plague those you claim to care about. It's a threat, clear and public and delivered with a smile. Luca's control is impressive. His expression doesn't change. His voice remains level. I'm well aware of the risks, Alberto, and I'm far better at mitigating them than you might remember. The temperature between them drops to Arctic levels. I can feel violence simmering beneath the surface, barely contained by the veneer of civility. Well, Vieri says finally, I suppose time will tell. Enjoy your evening, Mrs. Moretti. I hope it's not your last. He walks away, his guards following, and I release a breath I didn't realize I was holding. We're leaving, Luca says quietly, already guiding me toward the exit. But the gala is over for us. That was a declaration of intent. He's coming after you to get to me, and I'm not giving him the opportunity. We're in the car within minutes, speeding through city streets toward the estate. Luca drives with barely controlled fury, his jaw clenched, his scarred hand white-knuckled on the steering wheel. "I'm sorry," he says finally. "I underestimated how quickly they'd move. I thought we'd have more time." "Time for what?" "To make this convincing enough that they'd believe you matter to me. That's the whole point, give them a target so obvious they'd focus on you instead of my actual vulnerabilities." He laughs bitterly. "But they're smarter than I gave them credit for. They know that if they hurt you now, before we're established, I'll just replace you. So they'll wait. Let us build something real, then strike when losing you would actually hurt. The clinical analysis of my potential murder should terrify me. Instead, I'm caught on one phrase: build something real." "Is that what we're doing?" I ask quietly. "Building something real?" He glances at me, and in the dashboard light, I see conflict written across his features. "I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter?" "It might." We don't speak again until we're back at the estate, safe behind walls and guards and security systems. Luca walks me to my room, and we stand in the hallway, the space between us charged with things neither of us can say. "Get some rest," he finally says. "Tomorrow we'll increase security, adjust protocols. You'll be safe. Luca." I catch his arm before he can leave. "Thank you for protecting me tonight, for not just using me as bait." Something raw flashes in his eyes. "You're not bait, Elena. You're—" He stops, shakes his head. "Good night." He disappears into his room, and I'm left standing in the hallway, my hand tingling where I touched him, my mind spinning with questions I'm afraid to answer. The next morning, everything changes. I wake to raised voices outside my door. When I emerge, I find Marco in heated discussion with Luca, their voices low but urgent. They stop when they see me, but the tension doesn't dissipate. "What's wrong?" I ask. Marco looks to Luca, who runs a hand over his face. He looks exhausted, like he hasn't slept. "We have a leak," Luca says bluntly. "Someone inside the organization is feeding information to the Vieri family. That's how they knew about Sofia, about the archive breach last week. About you, everything." "How do you know?" "Because the Rossini ledger they asked about during the attack? It doesn't exist. I made it up 3 days ago in a private conversation with exactly 6 people. If the Vieri family knows the name, one of those 6 is the traitor." The implications crash over me. We're not safe even here, behind all these walls and guards. The enemy isn't just outside. They're inside, walking the halls, watching, waiting. "What do we do?" I ask. Luca's expression hardens. "We flush them out. I'm going to leak different false information to each of the 6 suspects, see which lie makes it back to Vieri. When we know who the traitor is, we eliminate the problem." "Eliminate," I repeat. "Meaning?" "Meaning exactly what you think it means." He meets my gaze steadily. "This is my world, Elena. It's not pretty, and it's not forgiving. If you can't handle that, tell me now." I should be horrified. A decent person would be horrified. But all I can think is that this traitor put a gun to my head, threatened my safety, endangered the fragile understanding Luca and I are building. "Do what you need to do," I say. "Just keep me informed." Surprise flickers across his face, followed by something that might be respect. He nods once, then turns back to Marco. "Implement the protocol. I want results within 48 hours. The next 2 days are tense. I work in the archives under increased guard, 2 armed men stationed at the entrance at all times. Luca is gone most of the time, handling whatever dark business his investigation requires. When we pass in the hallways or share brief meals, he looks grimmer, more tired, the weight of his world pressing heavier. On the 3rd day, Marco finds me in the archive. "We have him," he says simply. "The traitor. Mr. Moretti wants you upstairs." I follow him to Luca's office, my heart pounding. Inside, I find Luca behind his desk, and a man I recognize, Thomas, one of his senior advisors, someone I've seen at the estate a dozen times. He's seated in the chair across from Luca, looking pale and resigned. "Elena," Luca says when I enter. "Thomas has something to confess." Thomas looks at me with hollow eyes. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Moretti. I never wanted you hurt. I was just they have my daughter. Vieri's men took her 3 weeks ago. They said if I didn't feed them information they'd..." His voice breaks. The anger I'd been carrying drains away, replaced by complicated pity. He's not a villain. He's just another person trapped in this world, forced to choose between impossible options. Where is she now? I ask. We found her an hour ago, Marco supplies. Vieri was keeping her at a warehouse on the docks. She's safe, being checked by doctors. Thomas's relief is palpable, but it doesn't change his situation. He looks to Luca. I know what happens now. I just want to see her one more time. You'll see. Her, Luca says, his voice tired. And then you're both leaving the country. I've arranged passage to Canada, new identities, enough money to start over. But you're done here, Thomas. If you ever come back, if you ever speak about this family or this business, the mercy I'm showing you today ends. Understood? Thomas stares at him in shock. You're letting me live? I'm letting you go. There's a difference. Luca stands, and his next words are directed at me. I'm not my grandfather. I don't kill people for loving their families. After Thomas is escorted out, I'm alone with Luca in his office. He pours himself a drink, offers me one, which I accept. We sit in silence for a moment, processing. That was kind, I say finally. What you did for him. It was practical. Dead traitors can't spread the word that I'm merciful. Live ones can. You can't fool me anymore, Luca. I've seen behind the mask. You're not as cold as you pretend. He looks at me over his glass, and something vulnerable flickers in his expression. Don't make me into something I'm not, Elena. I've done terrible things. I'll do terrible things again. The only difference is who I choose to protect while I do them. And you're choosing to protect me. Yes. Why? The question hangs between us, loaded with implications neither of us has been willing to voice. Luca sets down his glass and crosses to where I'm sitting, standing close enough that I have to tilt my head back to look up at him. Because somewhere between your defiance and your courage, and your ridiculous habit of hiding contraband ledgers in your clothes, you stopped being a tool and became. He stops, searching for words. Important. Real. Mine in a way that has nothing to do with contracts. My heart is racing, my breath shallow. We barely know each other. I know you read fantasy novels and talked to your dead mother and would sacrifice anything for your father. I know you're brave enough to stare down armed intruders and soft enough to cry over a man who doesn't deserve your tears. I know that every morning at breakfast, you put cream in your coffee now that you can afford it, but you still drink it too fast, like you're afraid someone will take it away. I know you, Elena. Maybe not everything, but enough. He's right. Somehow, in the midst of this forced arrangement, we've built something neither of us expected. Not love, not yet, but the foundation for it. Understanding, trust, choice. I stand, closing the distance between us, and place my hand over his heart. I'm still angry at you, for trapping me, for the contract, for all of it. I know, but I'm also starting to understand why you did it, and more importantly, I take a breath, committing to the truth. I'm starting to care about you despite every logical reason not to. His hand covers mine on his chest, and I feel his heartbeat accelerate. Elena, whatever he's about to say is cut off by the sound of an explosion. The windows blow inward with a deafening crash. Luca throws himself over me, driving us both to the ground as glass rains down. Alarms shriek, and I hear shouting from somewhere in the house, followed by the unmistakable sound of gunfire. Stay down, Luca orders, pulling a gun from a desk drawer I didn't know existed. Marco. Marco appears in the doorway, weapon drawn, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. South wall breach. At least a dozen men, maybe more. They're pushing toward the archive. Get her to the safe room, Luca commands, already moving toward the door. No, I say, grabbing his arm. If they want the archive, there's something there worth dying for. Let me help. I know that space better than anyone. Absolutely not, Luca. I'm not helpless, and I'm tired of being protected like I am. If they get to those records, they can destroy you. Let me save what matters. He stares at me for one agonizing second, conflict warring in his eyes. Then he makes a decision that changes everything. Stay with Marco. Don't do anything stupid. If I tell you to run, you run. We move through the mansion together, Marco leading, Luca at my back. The sounds of fighting grow louder as we descend toward the archives. Smoke fills the stairwell, and I can hear voices speaking Italian, barking orders. The Vieri family brought an army, Marco signals for us to stop at the door to the archive level. He peers around the corner, then pulls back quickly as bullets tear chunks from the doorframe. 4 men between us and the archive entrance. He reports. They're trying to blast the door open. I can circle through the service tunnel, Luca says. Come at them from behind while you provide cover from here. Too risky. Everything is risky. Elena, stay with Marco. Promise me. I want to argue, but the look on his face stops me. He's terrified, I realize. Not for himself, but for me. This ruthless, controlled man is afraid of what might happen if he can't protect me. I promise, I say. Be careful. He touches my face briefly, a gesture so tender it breaks my heart. Then he's gone, disappearing into a side corridor I didn't know existed. The next minutes are chaos. Marco lays down cover fire while Luca attacks from the other side. I press myself against the wall, making myself small, listening to the violence and praying that the man I'm terrified to care about survives it. The shooting stops suddenly, leaving a ringing silence. I peer around the corner and see Luca standing among fallen bodies, his suit torn, blood on his hands, his or theirs, I can't tell. The archive door stands open behind him, and I realize with horror that someone got through. Go, Marco says, reading my expression. I'll secure this area. I run to Luca, who grabs me, checks me for injuries with shaking hands. You okay? Fine. Someone's in the archive. His expression darkens. Stay behind me. We descend together into the space I've come to. Think of as mine. It's been violated, boxes torn open, papers scattered, filing cabinets ransacked. And in the center of the destruction stands Alberto Vieri himself, holding a ledger I recognize with sinking dread. The Bloodlines ledger, the one that proves the Moretti succession is legitimate. Looking for this? Vieri asks, his smile vicious. Proof that your grandfather's marriage to my aunt was annulled before he married your grandmother. Proof that you're the legitimate heir, not my son. This ledger is the only thing standing between my family and control of the Moretti empire. He pulls out a lighter. And now it's going to burn. No. I lunge forward before Luca can stop me. Vieri's attention swings to me, and I see his intent a second before he moves. He drops the ledger and pulls a gun, aiming directly at my chest. Time seems to slow, and I think absurdly that I'm going to die in an underground archive, surrounded by other people's secrets. Then Luca is there, shoving me aside, his body between mine and the bullet. The gunshot echoes like the end of the world. Luca staggers, and I see blood bloom across his shoulder. He's still moving, still fighting, raising his own weapon and firing in one fluid motion. Vieri drops, the gun clattering from his hand, and suddenly Marco is there with reinforcements, securing the wounded man, calling for medical assistance. But all I can see is Luca, swaying on his feet, blood spreading across his expensive shirt. You idiot. I sob, catching him as his knees give out. You complete idiot. Ledger, he gasps. Get the ledger. Screw the ledger. Elena, please. I lower him as gently as I can, then grab the fallen book, shoving it at Marco, who's appeared at my side. Then I'm back with Luca, pressing my hands to his wound, trying to stop the bleeding while tears stream down my face. Don't you dare die, I tell him fiercely. Don't you dare leave me trapped in this marriage without you to fight with. Not dying, he mutters, his hand finding mine. Takes more than one bullet to kill a Moretti, but his eyes are unfocused, his breathing shallow. Ambulance is 2 minutes out, Marco reports. Hang on, boss. Those 2 minutes are the longest of my life. I hold Luca's hand, feel his blood soaking my dress, watch his eyes fight to stay open. I tell him about the first book I ever loved, about my mother's favorite song, about the coffee shop I used to dream of opening before life crushed that dream. I talk because if I stop, I'll have to face the possibility that I'm losing him right when I realized I can't bear to lose him. The paramedics arrive like an answer to a prayer. They stabilize him, get him on a stretcher, and I refuse to let go of his hand. They don't try to make me. In the ambulance, racing through city streets with sirens wailing, Luca's eyes finally focus on me. You saved the ledger. You saved me first. Fair trade. His smile is weak but real. Elena, I need to tell you. Tell me when you're not actively bleeding to death. Might not get another chance. Need you to know. He struggles for breath. Contract's void. Lawyer has instructions. You're free. Take the money. Save your father. Go live your life. You don't owe me anything. the words shatter something in my chest. After everything, he's still giving me an escape route, still trying to protect me even from himself. What if I don't want to be free? I ask, my voice breaking. What if I want to stay? His eyes search mine, looking for truth. Why would you want that? Because somewhere between paper promises and real danger, I stopped pretending. You're arrogant and controlling and absolutely infuriating, but you're also brave and protective, and somehow, against all logic, you make me feel safe even in the middle of chaos. I grip his hand tighter. I choose to stay, Luca. Not because of a contract, because of you. The ambulance jerks to a stop at the hospital, and they're pulling him away, rushing him toward surgery. His hand slips from mine, and the last thing I hear is him calling my name as the doors close between us. I'm left standing in the emergency bay, covered in his blood, my heart in pieces, praying to a God I'm not sure I believe in, that I didn't just confess my feelings to a man who won't survive to hear them matter. The waiting room becomes my prison. Marco sits with me, both of us silent and bloody and exhausted. Other members of Luca's organization arrive, men in expensive suits with hard eyes, who nod respectfully to me before taking up guard positions. Word has spread. The attack on the Moretti estate is over, but the war isn't done. Hours pass. I drink terrible coffee and stare at the clock and replay every moment in my mind, looking for things I could have done differently, if I hadn't insisted on going to the archive, if I'd been faster, if I'd stayed where I was safe. But if I'd done any of those things, Luca might be dead, and that thought is unbearable. Mrs. Moretti? I look up to find a surgeon in scrubs, and I can't read his expression. My heart stops. He's stable, the surgeon says, and I can breathe again. The bullet missed the major arteries, but he lost a significant amount of blood. We repaired the damage, and barring infection or complications, he should make a full recovery. Can I see him? He's in recovery now, still sedated, but once he's moved to a private room, yes. Relief crashes through me so intensely, I almost collapse. Marco steadies me with a hand on my shoulder, his own relief visible in the softening of his hard features. Thank you, I manage to say. Thank you. 2 hours later, I'm finally allowed into his room. It's private, spacious, with the kind of amenities that come from wealth and influence. Luca lies in the bed, looking paler than usual but blessedly alive. Monitors beep steadily, IV lines snake from his arms, and bandages cover his shoulder and chest. I sit in the chair beside his bed and take his hand carefully, mindful of the wires and tubes. His skin is cool but warming, his pulse strong beneath my fingers. I'm so angry at you, I whisper, knowing he can't hear but needing to say it anyway. You could have died. You could have left me alone in that life we built. Don't ever do that again. His eyes flutter open, unfocused at first, then clearing as they find me. Elena, I'm here. You stayed. Of course I stayed, you idiot. Where else would I go? A weak smile crosses his face. Thought you'd run. Take the out I gave you. I told you in the ambulance I don't want out. I want this. Us. Whatever that means. I lean closer, my free hand coming to rest over his heart. I know it's insane. I know we started with lies and force and a contract neither of us wanted, but what we built in spite of that. It's real, Luca. At least for me. His hand tightens on mine. For me too. From the moment you hid that ledger in your dress and looked at me like you'd fight me tooth and nail for something you believed in, you were real. The only real thing in my entire manufactured world. Then we figure this out together. Not because of a contract or an arrangement or because either of us is trapped. We do it because we choose to. Are you proposing to me, Mrs. Moretti? Maybe I am, Mr. Moretti. He pulls me closer with more strength than he should have, and I'm careful not to jostle his injuries as I lean down. Our kiss is soft, tentative, tasting of antiseptic and tears and promise. When we part, his eyes are bright with emotion I've never seen from him before. I'll have my lawyer draw up new papers, he says. A real partnership, equal terms, your name on everything, full access, complete transparency, no fine print, no traps. And if it doesn't work, then we end it honestly, like adults who respect each other. But Elena, he cups my face with his good hand. I'm going to fight every day to make it work, to be worthy of the choice you're making. I'm going to hold you to that. We stay like that, forehead to forehead, hands intertwined, building our future from the ashes of the contract that brought us together. Outside, the war continues. Vieri survived his wounds and will face prosecution, his organization dismantled, but there will be others. There always are in Luca's world. But for now, in this quiet room, we're safe. We're together. And for the first time since I signed my name in desperation, I'm exactly where I choose to be. 3 months later, I stand in the garden of the Moretti estate, watching sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and rose. The season has shifted toward spring, and flowers are beginning to bloom, evidence that even in dark soil, beautiful things can grow. Behind me, the house is quiet but no longer empty. My father is here, recovered enough to move into the guest wing, delighted by his son-in-law who plays chess with him every evening. The staff has warmed to me, no longer seeing me as an interloper but as part of the family. The archives are fully catalogued, their secrets preserved and protected. And Luca is beside me, his arm around my waist, his shoulder healed but still stiff on cold mornings. "What are you thinking?" he asks, pressing a kiss to my temple. "That I should have read the fine print." He laughs, the sound free and genuine. "Having regrets?" "Not even a little." I turn in his embrace, looping my arms around his neck. "But next time you want to trap someone in a marriage contract, maybe just ask her on a date first." Noted. Though to be fair, you make an excellent wife for a criminal. Former criminal. You're going legitimate, remember? It's true. With Vieri's organization dismantled, and the ledger proving Luca's legitimate succession, he's been systematically extracting himself from the darker aspects of the family business. It will take years, but he's committed. We're committed. Former criminal wife, then. He amends, and kisses me properly. Sunlight warm on our faces and the future stretching before us, with all its uncertainty and promise. Later, over breakfast in the dining room that no longer feels like a battlefield, his lawyer arrives with a folder of papers. The new contract, our choice contract. We read it together, every word, every clause, making sure there are no hidden traps or secret obligations. The terms are simple. Partnership in all things. Honesty, loyalty, freedom to leave if either of us chooses. No penalties, no leverage. Just the promise to try, and the freedom to fail. At the bottom, 2 signature lines wait. "You really want to sign another contract with me?" Luca asks, pen in hand. I take my own pen, twirling it between my fingers. This time I read every word. We sign together, our names side by side, and when the ink dries, it feels less like a binding and more like a beginning. Outside, life continues in all its messy, dangerous, beautiful complexity. But here, in this house that was once a prison and is now a home, we've built something neither of us expected. Love born from lies. Trust forged in fire. A marriage that started with signatures and surrender, but will continue with choice and courage. I should have read the fine print, but I'm glad I didn't, because sometimes the best things in life are the ones we stumble into blindly, too desperate or foolish or brave to see the danger until we're already past the point of no return. And sometimes, the person who traps you is the same one who sets you free. "Ready for this?" Luca asks, his hand finding mine across the breakfast table. I think of the woman I was 3 months ago, desperate, drowning, willing to sign anything to survive. I think of the woman I am now, strong enough to choose danger, brave enough to love a complicated man, wise enough to know the difference between a cage and a home. I'm ready, I say, and mean it with every fiber of my being. We rise together, leaving the signed contract on the table behind us, and walk toward whatever comes next, side by side, by choice, forever.